Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the December 7th, 2021 Board of Selectmen meeting. May I have a roll call, please?
Yes, 4 selectmen present this evening. Mr. Titlebaum is not present, as well as the town administrator.
Thank you. Mr. Manise, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Thank you. You're muted, Mr. Manise.
Is that better?
Much better, thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America and to the
Public.
and
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we move forward on the agenda, I'm going to read something into the record. It is fitting on this 80th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor to honor a true patriot. Robert Dole was born in Russell, Kansas, a town of 4,500 people in America's heartland, where honesty, hard work, and strong morals are still valued. In his youth, Dole mowed lawns, delivered newspapers, and worked as a soda jerk. He was a high school athlete who played basketball, track, and football. His college education was interrupted by the advent of World War II as he enlisted in the U.S. Army in early 1942. He served honorably in the Army until grievously injured in Italy a few days before the armistice. He was paralyzed from the neck down. Dole spent 2 years in military hospitals where he was told he would never walk again. For his military service, he received 2 Purple Hearts and a Bronze Star with Valor. He was medically discharged as a captain. Dole started his political career in 1950. He served as a member of the Kansas House of Representatives, the United States House of Representatives for Kansas, and as a United States Senator. He served many roles, including chairman of the Republican National Committee, chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, Senate Minority Leader, and Senate Majority Leader. He was known as a man of fierce partisanship, but more importantly, he was a master of compromise. In 1997, he was honored with the Presidential Medal of Freedom for his service to his country and to politics. In 2017, he was honored with the Congressional Gold Medal for his service as a soldier, a legislator, and a statesman. He was promoted to honorary colonel. Robert Dole died December 5th at age 98. May we observe a moment of silence in his honor, as well as in honor of the 2,403 men and women who died at Pearl Harbor 80 years ago this day. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
let the record show that town council has joined the meeting at 7:02.
Thank you, sir. We'll go to announcements. Mr. Slavin.
Just one, the Onset Bay Association has their Christmas event this coming Saturday. It's an all-day event.
Thank you. Mr. Manise. Announcements.
I believe the Solar Bylaw Committee is having a community input session tomorrow at 3, if I'm correct.
That's
3 p.m.
correct.
So anybody who's interested in that, good time to go and get your 2 cents in and listen to what's going on. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tropiano,
Have no announcements.
and neither do I. We'll go to citizens' comments, and I know that Mrs. Slavin wanted to speak. Mrs. Slavin.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. Just a reminder that the Community Preservation Committee is having a public hearing tomorrow night at 6 o'clock in room 24 of the town hall. It's a good opportunity to come talk about CPC on those funds and how it can be used in the community, learn what we can and cannot do. So tomorrow, 6 o'clock, room 24, join CPC. Thank you.
Thank you. I see that Ms. Davis would like to speak. Would you let her in, please?
Hi there, how are you?
Good, thank you.
I would just like to ask a question. I know that the DECIS petitioners have submitted nominees to the select board for their appointment to the DECIS steering committee, and I know the COA has also submitted their nominee. I believe that community preservation has it on the agenda for this week. So my question is, what is the timeline that the select board is working on to make these appointments?
I will respond to your question. The time frame is that when we have 6 nominations, we will be putting the committee together. And I've asked for the other committees for their nominations.
Is
I
there a
mean,
reason?
we're not going to discuss it.
I'm just asking for the reason for 6 because it's not quorum, it's more than quorum.
That's correct.
Is there a reason for that?
I choose to do that.
Will the select board
Thank you.
be
Thank you very much.
publishing this in the newspaper as
Good night, Miss.
was stated?
Good night.
Could you just answer that question?
No, I'm sorry, I'm not discussing this.
Oh,
with
well,
you.
I've been looking for it in the paper and I haven't seen it. And I do know that there have been submissions made to the select board for their nominee, for their seat. We're just trying to see this happen. So we'd like it to happen sooner rather than later. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening. I don't see anyone else who chooses to speak, so we'll go back to the agenda. Board comments. Mr. Slavin?
Yes, we participated in the school budget meeting last week. My comment really was that the information, the numbers really were not there to make me feel very comfortable, and I expressed my real concerns about the immediate and long-term budget numbers and how they're going to work overall. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Mr. Manise?
Yeah, Sunday I took a ride by the Bessie Park, and the trees look very nice, all lit up. And I see the neighbor, the abutting neighbor, put up a menorah, which kind of added nicely to the area. And the tide was so high, the dock was actually higher than the sidewalk, and the ramps were going a positive incline instead of going down. So it was pretty interesting. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manise. Mr. Tropiano?
Peter and myself would like to thank Angie Dunham and the Wareham Historical Society for the bells and capes we used in the parade. I'd like to thank the folks who put the parade together. It was a lot of fun. Although I thought the kids were a little disappointed without candy. I saw them with their bags to collect. With their bags, and they looked a little disappointed. And I think maybe next year you have to rethink that whole thing and see what, just so you know, I want everybody to know that this is my last year as a selectman. I will be leaving this board during the May vote. I have greatly appreciated being here. I've had a lot of fun, dealing with all the issues and being part of the town and so on. But I really had decided that this was going to be my last one. I don't know, probably right after I got elected the last time. I thought that this should be long enough for, I'm a dinosaur now compared to some of the things that are going on, and it's time for me to move on. I'll have a lot to say between now and the time that I leave, which I think is what, the 8th maybe? Is it the 8th? Something like that? Maybe it's the 5th. I don't know. It's one of those days. And before I leave, and so all you folks that want to run, I think you should get ready, and maybe we can have a good vetting process before the next election. And so thank you very much.
Thank you. I have no comments. We have no appointments, reappointments, or interviews, but we do have several pages of licenses and permits, and I believe the selectmen got an updated list of the things that are actually before us this evening. Mr. Tropiano?
Okay, so if you look at the licensing permits in 8A, I move that we approve them as written. Okay, because those are fine. That includes Mayflower Liquors, East Wareham Liquors, and also Wareham Liquors, both DG, what is it? DJP Liquor Corporation, and then Amwar Joint Corporation, and one's at 2991 Cranberry Highway, that one's 419. Those were all done and they're fine, and we can move forward with those.
May I have a second?
I'll second that with one comment. The liquor stores are required to have 25% of the windows only covered. It's been an issue that's been ongoing for quite a few years that I've been on the board. It's not really what we consider like a sign issue per se. It's really a safety issue for the police. If there is a robbery or something going on inside a store, if they can't see inside, they should not go in. And I can tell you from experience, when I was out in Las Vegas, we came off an airplane and had to stop to get something. And there was a robbery at a liquor store right next door, and the windows were completely covered, and the police went in and a couple guys got shot. So I'll vote to go ahead with it, with the stipulation that they comply with that 25% rule, or the police will inform them that if there's an issue there, they're not going in. Thank you.
Is that acceptable? Would you change your motion, Mr. Tropiano, to include that stipulation?
Absolutely. I mean, it's although Alan, I know he said this every season, so I appreciate it. And he's absolutely right. And we can incorporate it. But, you know, the law is the law, and they should be complying with the law, period, whether we put it in there or we don't. But I'm willing to put it in there for Alan, because he has been harping on this for quite a while, and he's right. You know?
Okay, great. Is there any further discussion on the motion to approve all 5 of them as submitted with the 25% window coverage stipulation? I'll call for a roll call vote then. Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Mr. Manise,
Yes.
thank you. Mr. Tropiano,
Okay, hold on one second. I got something. Okay. All right.
may I have your vote on that motion, please?
Thought I voted already. I apologize. So yes.
And
Yes.
myself, yes. So it is 400.
All
Mr.
right.
Tropiano,
This section B, 8B, the American Legion, the Elks, Glen Cove, VFW, Mark Anthony's, and Stone Path are being completely removed. Okay, so you can take those off. They're gonna come back next week. All right. Now, as for 8B, the rest of them are, let's put it this way, they're close to being 100%, but there are some things that may be missing here and there. For instance, there may be an inspection that didn't happen from one department, or there may be a piece of paper missing or something of that nature. So I move that we approve them based on the completion of any missing documents before they're released. Okay?
may I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you. For the record, I'm going to read in those that are not before us tonight. 8B, 2, 8, 7, 18, 29, 21, and 27 have been removed from the agenda for a change in paperwork. So may I have a motion and a second, and I've hopefully made that clarification. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Manise?
Yeah, just so, as Selectman Tropiano stated, that none of the licenses that we're approving will be released until all information that's missing has been turned in.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. May I call for a roll call vote now, please? Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Mr. Manise,
Yes.
Mr. Tropiano,
Yes.
myself, yes, 400. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right,
Mr.
under section
Tropiano?
C, I move we'll renew the following year-round common vicular licenses for the year of 2022 under the provisions of Chapter 140 of the Massachusetts General Laws, that you have the list with the same proviso. If there's any missing documents, they must be corrected. There's a whole lot of these, so there's like, one paper missing here, might be a whatever, and they've got to get in there, and all of them have to be. And by the way, if anybody wants to see what was missing on any of the licenses, there's a sticker on the licenses, and the sticker tells you what was missing on the license at the time that we did.
Mr. Tropiano, may I correct you? Item C, all of the documentation for all 12 of the license applicants is in order.
Are you sure?
Yes, sir.
It wasn't when I looked through them.
I have the latest list as of today.
Okay, well then there we.
But
Well,
but I will leave your motion as it is. Yeah.
All right,
And
and I move approval on that basis.
Second.
Okay. Motion made and seconded with the stipulation that any and all missing documentation be obtained before the licenses are released. Is there any further discussion? Thank you. I will call for a roll call. Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Mr. Manise,
Yes.
Mr. Tropiano,
Yes.
and myself, yes, 400. Thank you.
All right, next is the renewal of the following Class 2 licenses for the year 2022 under the provisions of Chapter 140 Massachusetts General Law. So these, I think, are all okay.
Yes,
There
they
is-
are, sir.
Are a couple that were missing some things, and I think we held them out.
That's
So
correct.
I approve these as written.
May I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the Class 1 licenses. Is there any further discussion? I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Mr. Manise,
Yes.
Mr. Tropiano,
Yes.
myself, yes, 400. Thank you.
All right, that's it. That's it for appointment for that stuff right this minute. Next week, I know there'll be a bunch more. So.
Actually, E.
Yeah.
We have E and F still on the agenda, sir. E is Class 2 licenses. And there are there are 3 that have paperwork missing out of the 8.
Hold on a second. Let me find. I got one page here. Maybe nope, I don't have it. I don't know why. Maybe it didn't print.
Okay.
Didn't print. It's not here. So that's okay. So E and F we still have, right?
Yes.
Right. So somebody else. So you're going to have to read.
Mr. Slavin, can you read the motion then, which would be with move the renewal of the following Class 2 licenses?
Because they're not here. I
Thank
don't
you.
have them.
Okay.
Renewal of the Class 2 licenses for the year 2022 under provisions of Chapter 140 of the Massachusetts General Laws. 1, AKJ Auto Sales.
You
2,
don't need to read, just say as printed on the agenda and with the stipulation of holding for the paperwork.
As printed on the current agenda, withholding any paperwork not complete.
And a second. Motion made and seconded. Is there any further discussion on that? I will call for a roll call vote. Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Mr. Manise,
Yes.
Mr. Tropiano,
Yes.
myself, yes. Mr. Manise, could you do item F, please?
Item F, huh?
Oh.
Scroll down here. I renew the following Class 3 licenses for the year 2022 under provisions of Chapter 140 of the Massachusetts General Laws. Robinson's Auto Salvage, Inc. Under Robinson's Auto Salvage, 2680 Cranberry Highway, Wareham.
Thank you. Is there a second to his motion?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. There is no missing documentation on this application. I'll go, is there any further discussion? I'll go for a roll call vote then. Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Mr. Manise,
Yes.
Mr. Tropiano,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Thank you very much. That takes care of those.
Could I just make a comment here, Mrs. Whiteside?
Sure. Yep.
I sat down and went through all the applications today. And out of all of them, I believe there were 16 that were totally complete without anything missing. At least that was in the packages. And it's a lot of work, and it took me about 2 hours to go through them. And I can only imagine the amount of work compiling all that by our office administrators. Thanks.
Yes,
Thank
thank you. It has taken a very long time. It's actually more than 125 licenses that they are working on before year end. So thank you, Mr. Manise. Appreciate the effort on your behalf, as well as Mr. Tropiano. I know you spent time in there as well. The next item of business would be the ratification of the hiring of William Snell, grade 5 operator at Wareham Pollution Control Facility.
Yeah, move we ratify William Snell, grade 5 operator, water pollution control.
Second,
Motion made by Tropiano, seconded by Slavin. Is there any further discussion? I will go for a roll call vote then. Mr. Slavin,
yes.
Mr. Manise,
Yes.
Mr. Tropiano,
Yes.
myself, yes. The next
Second.
The
Okay,
next item is on the agenda at the request of an individual as well as the road commissioners, because there is a question about the use of public way and signage there. So we gave you all of the documentation. And so which one of you would like to lead the discussion? Actually, I think Mr. Bowen, you were going to speak to this, I believe.
In due course, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Manise, would you?
Well, I just happened to have attended one of the traffic road commissioners meeting when they decided to move it to the selectmen. I'm assuming it's for our input, because I believe it does fall under the road commissioners purview, at least part of it, unless it's going to be totally private use of public property, then that would be a different story. But as far as parking on roads, that falls under the purview. I know some motions have been made, and there was some discussions by the road commissioners on it, and they felt this would be the best way to move forward. And I think they had spoken with Attorney Bowen about it, and probably Town Administrator Sullivan also. So this has been kicked around for a while. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manise, for the explanation. Anyone of the, Mr. Slavin, do you have any questions or comments, sir?
No, this has been floating for a while.
Thank you. Mr. Tropiano?
yeah, I have a question. This is town property, is that correct, as I understand it?
Yes, sir.
Town road.
It's
Got
the town road.
Okay, so it's town property, basically.
Yeah, if you look at the road commissioner meeting minutes of September 20th, 2021, item A under old business is the parking on East Boulevard at the Stonebridge restaurant. It was in fact discussed at that meeting. I'm presuming that's the one you're referring to, Mr. Manise.
Yeah, I get that. And it's always been a problem over there because there's basically no parking for anybody. So it's always been difficult. And it's been ongoing for not just now, but many, many, many years. It's been a problem in general. And between the real estate office and the two restaurants and what have you, it makes it very difficult in that area over there. I don't know how you handle this, to be honest with you, in my opinion. Town property, technically, in my opinion, is controlled by the town administrator. I don't see how, I think this is sort of an argument between one person arguing that the other guy parks there all the time. And the other side doesn't get to park there. So it becomes a real problem, and it becomes a problem for us. And I don't know how you handle this. It's a very difficult thing to handle. There are the need for parking in that area, and there's just no parking. So it's really up to, I guess, we've never allowed profit-making, so-called profit-making businesses to park their cars on town property or anything else. We just don't, we have never allowed it. But I don't know, it's a tough situation, it's a tough place. And how do you divide it at that point? How do you say, well, okay, you guys can use it from what, 3 to 4, or you can use 2 spaces and you can use 1. You know what I'm saying? This is a very, very difficult thing. And, it's nice for the road commissioners to kick it up to us. But I mean, they're more on the ground to this thing than we are, as being that municipal maintenance is on it and so on and so forth. I don't know. I don't know how to handle it. It's a tough situation.
Thank you. Before I call on Mr. Bowen, I'm going to read into the record what the minutes of the road commissioners read. Parking on East Boulevard at the Stonebridge restaurant. Chair Buckland reported this matter has been discussed by this board, the road commissioners, at previous meetings, and it is the responsibility of the Board of Selectmen to approve the use of town property. During discussion, members Menard, Smith, and McGonnell indicated that the posted parking/towing signage was inappropriate and should be removed. Any parking on town property should be open to the public with parking spots properly marked. Board members were, again, road commissioner members, were in agreement that the road commission does not have enforcement authority. The board has concerns regarding liability and believes the Board of Selectmen should be advised of this board's concerns. Mr. Bowen.
Madam Chairman, thank you.
You're welcome.
I've spoken on numerous occasions with the planner and members of the road commission concerning this set of facts. And in fact, the facts as I understand them are these. There is a parking space which is located on town property within the town layout. There is a sign affixed to a building which indicates that it's reserved parking for one particular business. I have the facts correct, do I not?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So you have 2 separate issues that have to be addressed. One issue, which can only be addressed by the road commission, as I've informed the planner and road commissioners, is the question of traffic signs. Traffic signs are the exclusive jurisdiction of the road commissioners. And if there is an unauthorized traffic control sign there, in this case, a parking sign that wasn't approved, they have the authority to order that that sign be removed. That is their job. I have on several occasions suggested that they review their records to discover whether the Traffic Commission or its predecessor, the Board of Selectmen, have ever approved that sign. And to date, no one has ever been able to find that that sign was approved. So this is a relatively simple issue. If there is an unapproved traffic sign, order it to be removed. You don't even get to the question of whether anyone is permitted to make private use of public property without permission, although the answer to that is no, you can't do that unless there's some proof that permission has been given. And in that regard, I've also asked that that be looked at, and so far no one's been able to come up with any evidence that any exclusive rights arrangement was ever approved by any board. So I believe this is a simple issue. You have an unapproved parking sign. The Traffic Commission can order that it be removed. No permission that anyone's ever been able to show that this parking space is reserved for private use. Nothing's ever been shown. End of story. There should be no sign there, and there should be no private parking there. If the town administrator wanted, he could put a parking meter there. If the road commission wanted, it could put up a sign there that says public parking. So in terms of the town's role here, it's a non-issue. How that sign got to be there, I don't know. It's nothing to do with the town. As far as anybody can show, this is a piece of public property, and if it's a parking space, anyone can park in it. Thank you.
Thank you. I just would like to ask you to clarify what you said. You said it should be ordered to be removed by whom?
Well, it's affixed to a building, correct?
Correct.
So the road commissioners can order that the person who's displaying it on the building take it down.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Slavin?
Are we talking about the parking spaces in front of the restaurant? Or are we talking about the parking spaces to the left of the driveway that goes down to the marina?
You have a map in front of you, sir.
I looked at it, I didn't see it clearly.
Okay.
I'll look again. Hold on a second. I'm looking at East Boulevard here. So we're talking about how there's so many lines here, it's hard to be clear, but we're talking about the line that goes really right through the a little corner of the restaurant, really, where actually I think there's an apartment there and someone parks their car right in front of that. Is that correct?
I believe so, sir.
So what we are saying is that part of that area belongs to the town, but part of it belongs to the property itself, where there's probably 1, 2, maybe 3 parking spaces that would belong to them. I thought the issue was originally going to be when you go past the driveway down, there's a dumpster and parking there where it says East Boulevard. And that was the issue we have. So we have an issue now where they're saying that they can't park in front of the restaurant because it's town property.
No.
Mr. Manise?
Looking
I
at
believe
the map.
the issue is, looking at the restaurant, on the left side for the driveway, there's 2 parking spaces which are on town property, part of the road.
And that's next to the dumpster. Jim.
They've designated those as for their patrons only. There's also the 3 spots on town property, on the grass property, which are dirt parking spots. I don't know if there's any signage there any longer, if that's already been removed.
Yeah, that's the one that's next with a dumpster at the corner as well, correct, Jim?
There's 3 spots. It would be easiest to look at it through Google Earth or something than trying
think this-
to. So there's 2 spots there that are in contention, and maybe Mr. Sullivan could enlighten us a little bit also. He's familiar with it.
Yeah, I don't have the map in front of me. The best map I think that you could utilize, if you're looking at it, is the one that was done for when I believe they were doing renovations to the building or something. It shows the town road layout going straight up against the building. And I believe it's those spots that are the main issue. My understanding of where the refuse disposal is, that is their property. Yeah, so.
Thank you. Mr. Manise?
This map that the plan that we got is nice, but it doesn't show the layout. And again, I think using GIS in the layouts and discussion with our town maintenance foreman, the director of municipal maintenance, Dave Menard, and hopefully that we could figure out exactly what was what. And I believe it's 2 spots that are in question right at this moment in time. The spots, other spots that are along the road are actually part of the property of the Stonebridge. So I would send it personally. I think we should just, hopefully they're listening. If not, get a copy of our minutes and send it to them. And being the road commissioner and with a suggestion of Mr. Bowen, and see if we can move forward.
Is that
That's
your
all.
motion, Mr. Manise?
I will make that motion, yes. We'll remand it back to the road commissioners. Will that be correct? With the suggestions of Attorney Bowen and the discussion related to it of the selectmen.
Thank you. May I have a second to that motion?
Second,
Motion made and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
yeah,
One at a time. Mr. Slavin?
I'd just like to get a actual layout of what we're talking about, because I'm looking at the property line as supplied to us. And there's some issues right there, because the property line goes through part of the building for the town.
I understand that, sir. Mr.
And, you know, and
Sullivan?
this is, and the- what I'm concerned about is, this has been going on for a long time where the parking is.
Mhm.
And, you know, have we given up our right as far as the control of that property because we've allowed parking there for so long? There's a bunch of questions here.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan?
Yeah, that's just, my concern is, and I'm probably overthinking it, is road layout versus road. And I just, I think this is a side conversation to have, because I wonder where the town's day-to-day authority and the road commissioners come in, but that might turn out to just be a policy question for how you, the selectmen, want to decide it.
Okay,
Thank
there's a
you.
motion and a second. Thank you. Mr. Tropiano, do you have a question, sir?
Yeah, I know. I just, Alan was mentioning that they, maybe we've given up some rights or something, but the town is not subject to adverse possession at all. So there's no way that anybody could claim that adversely they've used it and therefore it's theirs. So that doesn't fall in that range. So it doesn't matter whether we've allowed it or not. We can change it anytime we want.
Thank you. Mr. Manise, you have a motion with a second on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Then I will accept a roll call. Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Mr. Manise,
Yes,
Mr. Tropiano.
Yes, I said, yes.
Okay, yes, and myself, yes. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Town administrators report, Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My youngest and I attended the parade. I think it was the happiest I've seen a couple members of the Board of Selectmen in a long time. So, and she was able to get candy. Some nice people actually brought it to her until she wasn't so scared, and that she was jumping out and grabbing some. So, but it was a blast, and took her around afterwards. We did some shopping for Christmas presents, and then ended up with a view of the trees lighting up at the Narrows. Well, I enjoyed a prime rib, which was fantastic. So that was a really good Saturday. And because it was only Maggie with me and not Ashley, I was able to get the prime rib. So I just want to thank everyone involved. Obviously, the Wareham Village Association, Tracy McGraw, and there's a lot of people that put hard work into there, and especially municipal maintenance. Not just setting up the bridge, the lights along there, and the garland. It's really looked fantastic. So great work by everyone. And sure, if I haven't mentioned you, I'm thinking about you in this. Everybody did fantastic work. So really deserve our thanks. And for everybody involved in the parade, how awesome was that? So they did a great job. Just a little bit of a sadder note, if you will. We are keeping with the uptick in COVID cases. So we had 115 confirmed cases and 8 probable. So that's, we're keeping up over that 100. That's it's getting a little worrisome going into the that's expected to be up after Thanksgiving, and we'll probably continue that trend, especially with the Christmas gatherings. The really sad part was it was a tough week. We had three deaths. So, and I think that was the highest weekly death total we've had. So there's been 79 deaths total since the beginning. So that 3 really jumps out at you. So just something to keep in mind. You know, we were able to get one of my daughters vaccinated last night. The other gave us a couple right hooks, so we got to figure out how to get her vaccinated. But just you know, anything people can do, and I believe it's their choice, but just giving them letting you know what's happening from my family. So thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. We are now going to go to liaison and initiative reports. We will have some bills to pay, and we are going to go into executive session. We will not be returning to open session from the executive session. So I'll just ask that we move forward with the liaison or initiative reports. Mr. Slavin.
Thank you. Just to go back a little bit, you know, everybody's mentioned the parade. It was one of the nicest parades I think we've had in a long time, but the thing that was really impressive was the attitude of everybody, you know, along the route and people during the route itself. It was a pleasure to see, and I'm hoping we move forward from that and don't go backwards. Simple as that. Also, the display at Bessie Park, I've been getting comments constantly thanking the town, you know, municipal maintenance, Mr. Sullivan, et cetera, for the idea of what they've done here in South Coast Hospital. I know for ourselves, we did a tree for Joe Leggett, and I constantly are getting, you know, thank yous about that as well. So for those of you who knew Joe, thank you. I had a legislative committee meeting with MMA, which has to do with transportation, you know, public works, et cetera. We're still fighting with the state to try and get an increase in Chapter 90 funds. It's a battle that we don't, you know, we keep trying, but we'll see what happens. Had a GATRA meeting during the week last week, going over the new routes and the existing routes. We only had one person from the town show up to ask questions. Extremely disappointing, you know, because we fought, you know, for them to maintain certain routes. If you want this to happen, you're going to have to use the service, or else 6 months from now, you might see the service discontinued if they aren't using it properly. You know, it's a simple matter of profit and loss. I also had a GATRA meeting, executive board meeting yesterday. I've got to go back on Thursday. I can't discuss what's happening, but there's some internal things that will be happening, I think. It wasn't in the agenda per se either. I'm trying to see what else we have here. And I've got a CERTMET, you know, commission meeting for December 8th, which covers actually November, December. And we'll see, there's no real changes there at all. So that's about it for me today.
Thank you. Mr. Manise. Liaison initiatives reports.
Yes. We have a Wareham Affordable Housing Trust meeting next Tuesday, 9 a.m. Second Tuesday of the month. And that would be on the 14th, I guess. And as I mentioned earlier, there is a solar bylaw committee's public comment meeting tomorrow at 3 p.m.
Where?
I believe it is in the, I'm trying to click that in right now. It's
Room 320. Yeah.
It is.
Selectmen's
3:20.
meeting.
Yeah, the Selectmen's room,
Yeah.
Yes,
multi-service center, correct?
yes.
Okay. And I just want to say, I think some of the selectmen were at the school budget hearing meeting during the GATRA presentation. At least I think there was a conflict, because I would have gone and listened to that, and
No conflict.
there wasn't?
No, I did both.
You did? Oh, my mistake, and I'm sorry I missed it. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tropiano. Liaison initiatives. You're muted.
Sorry about that. I was feeling a little dry, so I put something in my mouth and I didn't want anybody to hear it. So
Oh,
so
okay.
I apologize. And no, I really have nothing. I think for the time being.
Thank you. I will comment. I went to the joint meeting of the Finance Committee, the Board of Selectmen, and the School Committee with the presentation of the budget. There were virtually no people attending at all, and very few questions. There is a workshop on the budget tomorrow, I believe, on the school budget tomorrow. And I know that the Finance Committee is going back, or some members of it are going to be attending that to see what additional information might be forthcoming. And that's it. Okay, authorization to sign.
Madam Chair, and I
Yes, sir.
apologize because it's probably because my brain's still a little scrambled from the sirens. Yeah, obviously I should have mentioned Wareham Police Department, and then especially the Wareham Fire Department, who everybody attending, you know, from them. It was awesome. And then the logistics as well, and having a nice, safe parade was great. So, but yeah, I think I still have a little tinnitus after that. It was awesome.
Thank you. Mr. Tropiano, I'll accept a motion on 12B, authorized payment.
Authorize the payment of Mr. Bowen's.
Second,
Motion made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Slavin,
yes.
Mr. Moniz,
Yes.
Mr. Tropiano,
Yes,
and myself, yes. And we have some minutes to approve, Mr. Tropiano.
we do. I have approval of the minutes for November the 2nd, 2021, and November 9th, 2021. I move that we approve the minutes as presented.
And everyone was present, am I correct?
Correct.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? All those, I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Mr. Moniz,
Yes.
Mr. Tropiano,
Yes,
myself, yes. And then we have some executive committee meetings.
yes, we do. And there's November 2nd, November 9th, November 16th, and November 23rd.
To approve and hold.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that your
Second.
second? Thank you.
Second.
Motion made to approve and hold. Is there any further discussion? There are 4 different dates, November 2nd, 9th, 16th, and 23rd. I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Mr. Moniz,
Yes.
Mr. Tropiano,
Yes.
and myself. Yes, thank you. I will now accept a motion to go into executive session for 2 different reasons.
And not return to open session. We'll be closing out from there. That's my motion.
Okay, is there a second to the motion to go into executive session for reason 6 and reason 3?
Second,
Motion made and seconded to go into executive session. Roll call vote, please. Mr. Slavin,
yes.
Mr. Moniz,
Yes.
Mr. Tropiano,
Yes.
myself, yes. So I will ask that we take like a 2-minute recess while WCTV clears the attendees, and we will continue with the 4 present selectmen, Mr. Bowen and Mr. Sullivan.